Welcome to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein, talking about the evolutionary, the revolutionary, the inspiration and the perspiration, and those aha moments that change everything. And now here's your host, Rich Goldstein.
Rich Goldstein here, host of the Innovations and Breakthroughs podcast, where we feature top leaders and the path they took to create change. Past guests include Roland Frazier, Ryan Dice, and James Thompson. This episode is brought to you by my company, Goldstein Patent Law, where we help you protect your ideas and products. We've advised and obtained patents for thousands of companies over the past 25 years. So if you're a company that has software, a product, or a design you want protected, go to goldsteinpatentlaw.com, where there are amazing free resources for learning about the patent process. And you can email my team at welcome@goldsteinpc.com to explore if it's a match to work together. You could also check out the book I wrote for the American Bar Association that explains in plain English how patents work. It's called the ABA Consumer Guide to Obtaining a Patent. I have here today Preston Schmidli. Preston is co-founder of Good Vibe Marketing Squad. No, I said that wrong. Preston is co-founder of Good Vibe Squad Marketing and partner chief product officer at Better Agency. Good Vibe Squad is a complete done-for-you marketing solution for mortgage brokers, and Better Agency is the only omni-relationship builder in the world. Preston works on both companies, building relationships, designing features, optimizing processes, and it's really my pleasure to welcome Preston here today. Welcome, Preston.
What's going on, Rich? Good to have you. It's good to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. So you do marketing for mortgage brokers and also for in the insurance business. Now, you started out in the insurance business. Correct. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that was actually, I started my journey in marketing as an insurance agent. I had transitioned from I was what they call a captive agent, which is, you'll see like the big ads. So some of the most prominently known captives are Allstate, Farmers, State Farm, stuff like that, right? So I was leaving one of those, and I was starting my own independent brokerage. And at the time, I had already explored the world of marketing for my own agency because I had reached a point where I felt like I was exhausting all options. I was leaving door hangers in apartment complexes. Like I was doing all the gritty grunt work type marketing that existed. And it's funny to look back. I actually have like a list of the ideas that we were trying to come up with for marketing. And I knew it was time for me to kind of make a change in my life when I was exploring the idea of going to church to just shake hands. Not that I'm anti-religious or anything like that, but it was just interesting because I've never really personally had a faith. And I was like, man, that's the wrong reason to go to church. It's like a poor man's B&I. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, right. And so when I was like, oh my gosh, like that doesn't even feel right to me. I was like, that was when I started to dive into marketing and the whole social media aspect. It really changed my life in a lot of ways. And during the transition from captive to having an independent brokerage, the captive company kind of drug out. There's a clause essentially where I can't write business under a different entity for, it was supposed to be like 90 days. Anyways, it got drug out for like 6 months. Well, I didn't feel morally good writing clients under a false promise that I was about to leave, right, and go to another agency. So I didn't feel morally like that was the right thing to do. But I also legally, they have $700 an hour attorneys, and I'm little old me. Like doesn't even matter if I'm right. They can smoke me out, right? And so that was kind of my concern in that situation was I couldn't afford a legal battle against somebody who has billions of dollars. So I was like, okay, well, we reached a really hard time. I didn't have a way to generate money. And so after a while, we got to a point where we were just like during this transition, I was trying to build all of the assets and everything for the independent brokerage while I was waiting that out. Right. And it just got to a point where we were at the plasma center twice a week selling blood to get gas money to go to the food bank to put food on the table. And one day coming back from the food bank, there was a note on the front doors, a blue note, and it was from the power company. It said you have 48 hours to pay us it was just over $600, or we're going to cut the power. Which, I knew at that time is like, well, shoot, if I don't have power, the fridge is done, the food's gone. Like this is an exponentially bad situation, right? Yeah. So we kind of, it's me and my girlfriend, we were figuring out like, what do we do? And we decided to just kind of take what I had been learning and practicing for my own agency and try to apply it in general. And so it was a Hail Mary. Like, what else do you do? My main income source was gone, and my back was against the wall. So what I ended up doing was we created a cold email list to 4,800 real estate agents across the nation. I used a tool called D7 Lead Finder, which at the time was free. It's not the best, but that's, when the price is free, you shouldn't have high expectations. And, we put this list together, and I did this cold email blast to 4,800 people. As you can imagine, a lot of FUs. How'd you get my email? Take me off your list. All of that, right? Which was to be expected. But it was kind of a saving grace. One guy named Joseph out of Tacoma, actually, he happened to be local. He paid me $750, and it hit my account 2 hours before the power company was going to cut the power. I paid that off. I filled the tank. I put some food in the fridge, and something in my brain in that moment, it clicked to me that this was the direction that I was going to go in life, that marketing was going to be a big staple. And that wasn't the last struggle that we went through on this journey by any measure. But that was really the start of me becoming a marketer and doing it for other people, not just for my own business. And so eventually the independent agency had, I kind of cleared that period where a valid case would be brought against me. The whole non-compete clause, was kind of behind me. But by that point, I had kind of already built a marketing agency that sustained, right? And so the best way that
you proved yourself. You cut your teeth on that 4,800 list person email. It's like it showed some grit, like to be able, like a lot of people facing a situation where I need money or the power is going to be cut off, and other people will say to them, well, there's got to be something you could do. You could be resourceful. And like, that's what I call inoperable coaching. Is like, well, what do I do with that? Be resourceful. How do I be resourceful?
What does that mean?
What does that mean? It's like not something I could do anything with, that advice, but you show that you pulled together this list. You emailed all these people. It was just a Hail Mary, and you got someone and you sold them on you being their marketing agent. So in a sense, you really proved that you were worthwhile as a marketing agent, that you were able to just kind of work something out like that. I mean, it's almost like the core skill of being a marketer, right? Is to be able to look at it and say, we'll find a way. And if we don't find a way immediately, we'll adjust, and then we'll find a way, right?
Yeah. And it was interesting too, because, that was like the first and that was, keep in mind, I had just paid the power bill. So it's like, I got to zero. I got out of the hole, I got to zero. And then I was still like, okay, well now I'm still broke, it's like, so what do you do from there? And so I ended up getting a few more clients, at the time it was like maybe 5, which was decent money for back then. It was enough to we were able to stop going to the plasma center, cause it's one of those things, man. A lot of people had tried to tell me during that era, they're like, well, you're doing a good thing. It doesn't feel like a good thing when it's at the barrel of a proverbial gun. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you're donating blood, mad respect. But when you sit in the lobby of a plasma center and you look to your left, you look to your right, these are people that are too poor to buy heroin, but that most of them want to. Right. And so it's such a debilitating feeling you're like, what did I do in life to deserve this? You're like, who did I hurt? What did I do? Is my karma this effed? And so, it's one of those things where that was probably the biggest thing for me, was to get out of that environment. And so I went through this really aggressive phase where I seeked a lot of mentorship and growth. And it was a series of Hail Marys for a minute there. There was a few trips that I bought one-way tickets to, didn't know how I was getting home, but I was like, I have to be there, and I'll figure a way. And so I remember it wasn't long after I managed to pay that power bill. I ended up buying a one-way trip to Philadelphia for one of my mentors back then. And I literally just crashed on his couch. And I told him, I was very transparent. I was like, dude, you clearly have something I don't, or I haven't learned in life, a skill that I've never adjusted to as a man. I was like, I'm going to damn near watch you pee. I'm going to watch the way you interact with your family. Like I need to learn whatever it is that you know, and I don't, And so I went into that with, I think, a deep sense of humility and understanding that there were people that had some of the knowledge and wisdom I needed. And I needed to be open to receive that,
Right. No, absolutely. And like circumstances have changed dramatically since that point for you.
Oh gosh.
But yet you still retain those core, you call them skills, you call them values, you can call them assets, whatever. It's like that determination, kind of the ability to jump fully in to something and go on take a one-way trip somewhere, even though you don't have a return ticket booked, to sit there and, donate plasma, knowing that it kind of didn't reflect what you're really about. You weren't donating, you were doing it because you needed to get the money, but
Right.
yet still, like this was like, you're willing to do what it took and not be, you felt bad about it in certain respects, but also it's like, you're not going to be held back by feeling bad. You're just going to do what you intend is going to get you where you need to go.
Well, and I had always felt like, and this might, I guess it is a little, I don't want to say it's cocky, but it is probably a little self-involved. I always felt like I was kind of, there was a reason that I'm here, I always felt like I wasn't like in my past life, I felt like I was underutilized in a way, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
I wasn't living up to potential, and I don't know if you know this about me, Rich, we've worked together now for a little bit, but I technically didn't graduate high school. I was very bad. I was very poor in the school system. I ended up paying one of my teachers $40 to let me walk. And I bought the cap and the gown. I got the photo. I made it look like I graduated, but I didn't. And I lied my way into college, which I then dropped out of. It just wasn't for me, And so I was one of those kids who had to get his teeth kicked in, over the next, in my 20s was a series of, business failures. But it's like, and this is the weird part. And this is probably like, if I could share any advice or wisdom for your listeners, my 20s felt like a massive series of failures. If I looked at each one individually, I'd be like, why was I doing that? But like, as I look back now, each one of those was like a trial for this. I look back and at my 20s, I'm like, oh my God, dude, it all made sense.
It
just didn't at the time. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's important to be able to look back on that or even at least have the trust or faith in your journey to look at your current situation and be like, you know what, this feels abstract, but I have a feeling it's going to come into play for where I'm going. And, cause that's what happened to me. Is like, there's so many different experiences that I had that at the time I was like, what am I doing with my life? But I was all in. It's like I was committed, but at the same time, you're like, dude, how did I get here? Well, it's like all of those things. Like if I didn't have the plasma center experience, I don't know that I would have the determination to keep going because, having a marketing agency and a software company, they're not easy by any measure. You have to kind of build that grit muscle a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So and again, it sounds like all of it worked for you, including kind of feeling determined and at the same time, being fully committed to what you're doing and feeling underutilized at the same time. Imagine that meant that whatever you're doing, you would get it done, but you were ready to move on and use it as a stepping stone towards the better thing that you were about to do.
Sure. 100%. Yeah. And that's something that, cause like even, a lot of those, like in my later 20s too, even the plasma center, there was, despite my, I can't quit. Quitting's not like a part of who I am, but I'll tell you what, man, there's thousands of times I wanted to, over the last few years, not the last few, I should say, last few have been decent because we've, obviously made a lot of progress, but during those hardships, it's like, despite how persevering I am as a human being and how stubborn I am, it's like, sometimes those hardships, they weigh on you and you want to tap out. I think that's the important thing is, there was a quote, I think it was David Goggins, ended up saying it, where he pretty much says like, whatever pain you experience, you're probably only about 40% of your capacity. And that really stuck with me throughout my journey. Cause like anytime I was in pain or I was suffering, I just tell myself like, this is a fraction of what I can handle. which could also be abusive, I guess, depending on your circumstance.
Right. So underutilized even when you experience pain. Like, come on, man, I could take much more.
Right. Hit me harder. Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like some days for sure. Yeah. But I'm grateful, as I'm very grateful for the struggles because it forced me to become better. And that's a big thing for us is it's always about how can we be better,
Right. And I mean, if you're watching this as a video episode, you could appreciate it. But if it's audio, I would say that Preston is wearing a shirt that says "better."
It says "better."
Better.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the cool part too, man. When we were the Better Agency as a software, it's intended. This is a software that we created to be able to help insurance agencies just literally have a better experience with their clients, live a better life, make more money, all that good stuff. It came down to the core principle. It's like, what are we really trying to achieve here? Well, we're trying to make their lives better. And so for us, we were like, there it is, man. Like, that's it. Like that's, if we can be focused on becoming better with every day and we can help our users become better every day, it just kind of, it takes care of itself. Right. And that's the goal. I feel like a lot of people don't do that. They just they plateau and they ride. And it's like, no, it's every day, even if it's fractional or incremental, let's just become better. Right. And that's what we do. We help people become better,
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I mean, what are some of the special challenges that insurance agents face in terms of marketing? Like, I imagine that you originally had an agency that was part of a bigger group, like a franchise or some type of situation like that. And they're supposed to help you with marketing, but they don't really, or they have some canned info for you to use for marketing. So tell me about some of the special challenges that.
Yeah. So that's a great question. From a marketing perspective, insurance agencies are challenged because it's marketing to them might as well be, how do you change how do you change the valves on your car? Most insurance agents, it's just not a skill set they have. Right. So it's like, it's completely unfamiliar and their idea of it is not going to be very good. And I'm not saying this as a knock. They shouldn't be. If they're good at selling insurance, that's what they should do. Right. I mean, there's an element where when you start to specialize and you get busy, it's like, dude, you have to delegate a lot of that kind of stuff, And so I think what ends up happening is you have people that aren't qualified in most professions, people that aren't qualified trying to make these decisions when they don't understand attraction models. They don't understand how to actually get in front of the right audience or how to identify that audience to begin with. Right. And I'm talking very fundamental stuff. Like, I'm not even talking like super geeky chatbot, coding, like API, like none of that. Like just from a 30,000 foot overview, insurance agents are generally very technically inclined at documentation. I'd imagine it's similar to you. There's things that you might discuss with a paralegal or another lawyer that I'd be like, what? And that's your job. That's why you're paid the big bucks, right? Is because you do something I can't.
Right. And most attorneys are terrible at marketing. And that, so it's a similar type thing. Like they do their thing, but in terms of how to find new clients, like they don't even know how to begin most of the time. Right. Most of the time, if they're in their own practice, it's because they originally worked somewhere else, and when they left, they took some clients with them.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, and that's kind of, it's like the E-myth, man. If we just go back to basic stuff, you can't, it's hard to be the visionary, the technician, and the manager all in the same person. So it's like, if you're the visionary, which hopefully you are, you're probably not the technician. Like, I doubt you're drafting up all the legal documents. You might be directing them. You might be, editing. I'm sure that you have influence there, but I'm sure that a lot of that is boilerplate and or something that you're not required to do the whole thing, right? Like, there's elements of the legal practice that don't require somebody that's $500 an hour.
Yeah, so some of it. Like in my field, it's actually very much custom, but I'm not doing it all myself anymore. Right. It's like, in order to get to a certain point, in order to scale at all, you can't be all of those.
Right.
Hold all those roles simultaneously.
Well, it's like how you have Phyllis, right? It's like you don't have time to call me when there's something that needs, like, I mean, could you? Sure. You're qualified to do it by, it's not like you're not, but at a certain point you have to do what you do best. Right. And it's very similar to insurance agents. So I think that the biggest issue that insurance agents have is, which is actually not corollary to marketing on a, like it like, it won't feel like it directly, but it's very directly connected. The biggest issue to most insurance agents is a difficulty delegating. It's a leadership issue because they feel like, you know what, I don't trust them. I don't think that they can. They won't understand my vision. They won't understand my brand. I'm going to do it myself. And it's like, that's probably not 100% wrong. They might not have the same vision for your brand that you do. But if they do it 70% to desire, it's a hell of a lot better than you doing it 0% because you never get to it. That's kind of one of the biggest issues that most insurance agents have, is they have these dreams of what they wish it could be, and then they never execute, right? And so that's probably the first thing that, as a in the marketing space, that I've seen that they have to overcome. But the second thing, the most important, and this is why we dove into software from marketing, because I was doing marketing before being involved in software. The biggest thing is systems, man. They don't have any. And so it's like some of the stuff that I see insurance agents doing, I'm like, sweet baby Jesus, you are spending so much time every day doing things a computer could do. It's like I see people that have hundreds of Word documents for these different template emails that they send. And it's like just watching them try to find that one email that it's like, you could have just typed it again. Or better yet, you could have just had a software that sent it and you didn't even have to remember it existed. And it's painful to see how some people operate like that. And which is also delegation, right? People they feel like technology is going to take their job, and they've kind of romanticized that position. And I don't blame them for that, but there is an element to it where I think for an agency to grow, and this is probably for any business, but I think for an agency to grow, they have to kind of let go of control to a degree. And then they have to focus on scalability, right? It's like, if you cannot in good integrity say that you value your time at $200 an hour and then do $20 an hour tasks. You can't. Those things are mutually exclusive. And so that's one of the things that it's like, if you're doing $20 an hour tasks, then you're worth $20 an hour. I don't care what your opinion is, because that's what the market's going to value you at, because you have 24 hours in the day. You have to sleep. You have to try to see your family. You have to hopefully have passions. And there's only so much time you can work till you burn out mentally and physically. Your time is limited, therefore you are capped financially. So if you don't value your time, nobody else will. And that's one of those things where it's like, you don't always have to delegate to people, right? And so that's been one of the cool things about having, being a part of a software that's disrupting an industry like insurance, is that we hear it every day. Man, we had one guy recently that he did a cross-sell campaign, just uploaded a list. And he said, my staff was overwhelmed by the amount of calls that we had. We've never had that problem before. We had to stay way later than we normally do, just trying to get all these quotes done. And it's like, how cool is that? How cool is it that they didn't have to manually send those emails anymore, and they were busier than they've ever been? We have people that are having record-breaking month after month, and it's just because they let go a little bit of that control. And they trusted the system. They let the system do its thing, right? And we're always focusing on building that system to be better, better than any person and better than it was yesterday.
All right, so now I'm getting something even more strongly. This idea of being underutilized is about efficiency. So that's your drive. Like, if that's part of your driver, then it's part of the thing that's driving you to efficiency. It's like, you know what? In those moments where I'm sending out emails rather than focusing on what I do best, writing patent applications, let's say, then I'm underutilized, right?
100%.
And so like you've built an agency, you've built a software company to help from the standpoint that when someone's not operating efficiently, they're being underutilized.
Mm-hmm. That's a great observation. I never put two and two. I feel like I'm having a therapy session right now.
I love noticing the patterns, like the patterns in people. Yeah. And how like they create things out of their own patterns of like the things that they value, the things that matter to them. So sure. I think that's what we're talking about.
It's a great observation. Yeah. Well, and I actually grew up, my dad has been in an insurance agency for like 30 years now. And so I was raised in, maybe I wasn't there, but over 25, I think. I was raised in a family of insurance, right? And so I used to go to the office when I was a kid. Like that was what I did instead of school. Like I wanted to help dad out. I wanted to be there. I enjoyed that environment much more. And I always wanted to take, he had the paper files and I always felt pulled to be like, Dad, let me help. And this is we're talking like pre-YouTube, man. So This is like, which sounds crazy, but I think YouTube was what, '06? You know, I mean, it was like this was back in an era where you're like, you don't want to use paper files. Like, what would you do? You know,
Right.
and I wanted to, and so in that regard, it's like I was kind of pursuing efficiency even when I was a kid, and I don't know if that was kind of driven from frustration or if that's just how I'm wired. But I do remember that very vividly, like, you know. And I think the thing for me that's so powerful about being a part of Better Agency is I get to be the guy I wish I had 3 years ago. You know what I mean? Like when I was doing that transition from the captive to the independent, and I didn't know the software that would help. I didn't know all the marketing strategies. Like I was still getting my teeth kicked in. And I learned what I learned because I had to. There wasn't really a solution on the market. Because if there was, I wouldn't have to know what I know. I would just be selling insurance, and somebody else would have done my marketing, or somebody else would have done my software. But due to a lack of resources that are actually available in the market, I had to become who I am, and I'm grateful for that. But it's like I get to be that guy for other people now, right? The thing that drove me, now I'm able to solve those problems on a deep level, and it's kind of crazy the amount of, and you see this doing patents and doing, all kinds of technology stuff and cool ideas. Obviously that's why we work together. You see how many great ideas there are in the world. And what baffles me, it just totally baffles me, Rich, is the amount of it's almost inconsiderate. The software space for insurance has neglected the people that they serve so hard. Because they can. They're up to this point, there's been minimal competition. Everybody kind of had their thing and nobody really challenged it. And so innovation wasn't forced. They didn't have a reason to grow because, well, they're going to keep paying me. So why would I hire more developers? Why would
it wasn't supported? Innovation wasn't really supported or encouraged.
Yeah. So that's the cool part is watching as we grow Better Agency and do all the cool stuff. And you've seen a lot of the stuff that we're working on. As we do that, it's funny to watch other competitors that haven't done anything for years, to watch them scramble. They have to. And it's kind of interesting because we haven't even been on the market for a year. And I would say we've done more integrations and feature developments in less than a year than most people have done in the last 5 to 10.
Well, that means you're setting the bar. If all of a sudden now they're trying to be innovative in response to you, then you're setting the bar.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that, to be honest, because it's like, it's fun to me because I feel like I have the right people on the team, you being one of them. I feel like we could really go the distance, but in a way it's kind of like whether a user goes with our platform or they go with another platform that's innovating out of response to us. In a way, it still feels like a tally in the victory column because we kind of forced that, we forced that change.
Well, that's part of an abundance mindset, right? Is like scarcity minded people feel like, oh my God, if someone else wins, that means I lose.
Sure.
Abundance minded, it's kind of like there's plenty to go around. I could win and you could win too. We could all win. We could not just fight over a slice of the pie. We could make a bigger pie.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah. No, so it's been really fun, man. We really do have the best team. And I joke about this with the guys. I'm like, dude, this feels like Ocean's 11 of the insurance software space. Like, you have all these you have these oddball people that in their own right individually are quirky and weird, but you put them together and it's like, man, this is like almost a heist, like a genius level heist type operation. With the amount of specialized nerdiness we have, because each one of us has our own superpower, and that's one of the reasons I like working with you is what your knowledge set and what you do and how you apply that to industries is just so, in my opinion, it goes deep. I feel like a lot of people try to be everything for everybody, and that's a very difficult business model to honor and create. You really chose and identified your lane and became a master of your craft. And I'm sure if I asked you to, help me get rid of a speeding ticket, you'd probably tell me to kick rocks, and that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Where not everybody has that. A lot of people are kind of, they're scared to specialize because what if I lose that deal? What if, they have a hard time choosing that lane. And I truly feel blessed that each of us on this mission, has that one thing, that one thing
Yeah.
that they're known for, and they just crush it. And collectively, man, it's every day is just a series of new opportunities for us to really dominate. It's fun.
Thank you. And I think that's, by the way, thanks for the kind words. And I think that's an awesome way to kind of, to see yourself and the other people around you as kind of like everybody doing their piece of it in their lane, and kind of, I mean, it feels like you envision the results that come from all those people working together. And I think that's really cool.
It's something else. I've been a part of a lot of teams in my life, and I can honestly say not one feels as magical and synergetic as this one. Like we literally, because we don't, that's the crazy part. They're up to this point, we haven't had any venture capital. There's been no, it's self-funded. We haven't taken money from anybody else. We develop it ourselves. It runs itself now. It pays for itself. We don't have a massive dev team, but we're efficient, and we know what we want. We know where we're headed, and we work super duper hard. And it's cool because, some of our competitors have dev teams of upwards of 20, and so they way overshadow us as far as their ability to do. But, I think that having such a solid vision and knowing where we're going, and such a, lock arm synergy with each other, that's been the big driving force of it. It's one thing to have an idea. It's another to have just fierce execution. And luckily we have both.
That's a good thing, because both are necessary, right?
Yeah.
And look, we barely got to even mention the mortgage broker side of things, and that you run an agency that provides marketing to mortgage brokers. So want to make sure that we give a shout out to your agency there. And
yeah, for sure.
So if someone wants to learn more about you or get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and just to kind of give context to that, the software that we've created, Better Agency, is specific to insurance agents. My marketing agency, which is called Good Vibe Squad, that is specifically, it's a complete done for you platform and program for mortgage loan officers who are looking to grow their production. That is, I'll give you a few URLs just for you to put below the video or whatever. But if you want to check out the Better Agency, you can go to betteragency.io. If you want to check out Good Vibe Squad, you can go to goodvibesquad.com. Or if you just have general questions and you want to connect with me, you're welcome to add me on Facebook. Just let's be friends. Facebook.com/Preston Loves Marketing. And, I'm obviously happy to connect with anybody that'll come from this. A friend of Rich's is a friend of mine, that's for sure.
Awesome. I love that. And I feel the same. And I really appreciate you being here, Preston. Thanks so much for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for listening to Innovations and Breakthroughs with your host, Rich Goldstein. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web at innovationsandbreakthroughs.com, and we'll see you next time.